The alien hunting ship descended through the purple clouds of planet Zephyr like a metal predator seeking prey. Captain Vex stood at the bridge window watching the strange world below. His forearms moved across the control panels while his compound eyes studied the readings. Energy signatures are strong in the northern crystal caves, reported his second officer Crix. The insect-like alien clicked his mandibles nervously. The shadow dragons are definitely there. Vex nodded his massive, reptilian head. 3 weeks they had been on this cursed planet. 3 weeks of failure and embarrassment. The Galactic Council had hired the best hunting guild in known space to capture 3 shadow dragons alive. These creatures were worth more credits than most planets earned in a year. The problem was simple. Nobody had ever successfully caught a shadow dragon before. Deploy the hunting teams, Vex ordered. Full equipment loadout, stun nets, energy cages, sleep gas dispensers. I want those beasts captured by sunset. The hunting party spread out across the crystal formations that covered the northern continent. Each team carried enough firepower to level a small city. Their armor could withstand plasma blasts and their sensors could track a mouse from orbit. Team Alpha approached the largest cave entrance. The crystals around the opening pulsed with natural light that made strange patterns on the rocky walls. Lieutenant Zark raised his scanner and frowned at the readings. "Sir, the crystal formations are interfering with our equipment," he reported, over the comm system. "We are getting ghost signals everywhere. Push forward anyway," came Vex's angry voice. "Those dragons cannot hide forever." The team entered the cave system carefully. Their weapon lights cut through the glowing crystal maze like bright swords. Every shadow could hide a dragon. Every reflection could be their target. Hours passed, with no contact. The hunters searched deeper and deeper into the caves. Sometimes they heard sounds that might have been dragon calls. Sometimes they saw movements that could have been dragon shadows. But they never found anything solid. Team Beta tried a different approach. They set up motion sensors at every cave entrance and waited. If the dragons tried to leave, the sensors would detect them instantly. The sensors triggered constantly. Birds, insects, wind moving through the crystals. Even small avalanches of crystal chips set off alarms. But never dragons. Team Gamma decided to use brute force. They fired seismic charges into the cave walls to collapse tunnels and force the dragons into smaller spaces. The explosions echoed through the crystal caves like thunder. All they accomplished was making the caves more dangerous for themselves. By evening, all 3 teams returned to the ship empty-handed and exhausted. Vex paced the bridge like a caged animal. His reputation was built on successful hunts. He had captured void whales and plasma bears. He had brought back creatures that other hunters said were impossible to catch. But shadow dragons were different. "Captain," said Communications Officer Nix, "we are receiving a message from the Galactic Council." Vex's stomach sank. "Put it through." The holographic image of Council Chairman Orthax appeared in the center of the bridge. The ancient being looked like a cross between a tree and a crystal formation. His voice crackled with authority. "Captain Vex, we expected results by now. The Royal Zoo is prepared to receive 3 shadow dragons. Where are they?" "Sir, these creatures are more challenging than anticipated," Vex replied carefully. "They possess abilities that our intelligence reports did not mention." "What kind of abilities?" "They appear to phase through solid matter at will. Our containment systems cannot hold something that can walk through walls." Chairman Orthax's crystalline features darkened. "We hired you because you claimed no creature was beyond your reach. Perhaps we made an error in judgment." The transmission ended, leaving Vex staring at empty air. His career hung in the balance. The guild would strip him of rank if he failed this mission. Worse, they might exile him to some backwater mining planet. "Sir," ventured Crix, "perhaps we should try a different strategy. Instead of hunting them, maybe we could lure them out somehow." "With what?" Vex snapped. "We do not even know what they eat." Meanwhile, in the southern hemisphere of the planet, a small human transport ship struggled through an ion storm. The vessel was old and poorly maintained, held together more by hope than proper engineering. Amanda Chen sat in the pilot seat watching her instruments fail one by one. She was a botanist returning from a research mission to the outer colonies. This was supposed to be a routine trip home to Earth. "Come on, old girl," she whispered to her ship. "Just a little further." The ship shuddered as another system overloaded. Warning lights flashed across the control panel like a deadly Christmas display. Amanda tried to compensate, but she was no pilot. She studied plants, not spacecraft systems. The ion storm intensified, sending electrical surges through the ship's damaged hull. Amanda watched helplessly as her navigation computer died with a shower of sparks. "Emergency landing sequence initiated," announced the ship's computer in a calm voice that contrasted sharply with the chaos around her. Amanda strapped herself in as the ship began its uncontrolled descent toward the planet below. Through the viewport, she could see crystal formations growing larger by the second. The ship hit the ground hard, carving a deep furrow through a field of purple crystals before finally coming to rest against a large boulder. Steam rose from the damaged hull as various systems shut down permanently. Amanda unbuckled herself carefully, checking for injuries. A few bruises and a cut on her forehead, but nothing serious. She was incredibly lucky to be alive. The ship's computer spoke one last time before going silent forever. "Hull breach detected. Life support failing. Recommend immediate evacuation." Amanda grabbed her emergency pack and climbed out through the twisted airlock. The alien landscape stretched endlessly in all directions. Strange crystals grew from the ground like geometric trees pulsing with soft light. She had never felt so alone in her life. Amanda stood beside her wrecked ship and tried not to panic. The emergency beacon was dead along with everything else. Her communicator showed no signal from any nearby stations. She was completely cut off from civilization. The air was breathable, which was one small blessing. Her suit's sensors showed normal oxygen levels and no dangerous toxins. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth standard, making each step feel bouncy. She opened her emergency pack and took inventory. Water purification tablets, dried food rations, basic medical supplies, a thermal blanket, and a small plasma torch for cutting. Enough supplies for maybe a week if she was careful. The crystal formations around her crash site were beautiful in an alien way. They ranged from tiny clusters no bigger than her hand to massive towers that reached toward the purple sky. Each crystal pulsed with its own inner light, creating a constantly shifting display of colors. Amanda was a scientist first, even in a crisis. She knelt beside a small crystal cluster and examined it closely. The light seemed to come from some kind of bioluminescent organism living inside the crystal structure. Fascinating. A sound made her look up. Something large was moving between the crystal towers, but she could not see what it was. The light patterns made it hard to focus on any one spot for long. "Hello?" she called out. "Is someone there?" Only silence answered her. Amanda decided to find shelter before nightfall. The planet had 2 small suns, and both were setting rapidly. She did not want to spend the night in the open without knowing what kind of predators might emerge after dark. She began walking toward what looked like a cave entrance in the distance. The crystal formations grew thicker as she moved away from her ship. Soon she was walking through a maze of glowing pillars and arches. The cave entrance was larger than she had expected. It was easily wide enough for her ship to have flown through. Strange symbols were carved into the crystal walls around the opening. They looked almost like writing, but unlike any language she had ever seen, Amanda activated her plasma torch and stepped into the cave. The crystals inside were even more spectacular than those outside. They formed natural bridges and spirals that seemed to follow some kind of mathematical pattern. The cave was also surprisingly warm. Her suit's sensors showed the temperature was several degrees higher than outside. Some kind of geothermal activity, perhaps. As she went deeper, Amanda began to hear sounds echoing through the crystal chambers. Soft musical tones that seemed to come from the crystals themselves. It was hauntingly beautiful, like a choir of glass angels. She found a chamber that seemed suitable for camping. It had only one entrance, which she could watch easily. The crystal formations provided natural shelves where she could store her supplies. Most importantly, there was a small pool of water fed by a crystal spring. Amanda tested the water carefully with her purification kit. It was not only safe to drink, it was purer than most bottled water on Earth. The spring must be filtered through miles of crystal formations. She set up her thermal blanket and ate a small meal from her rations. The cave was peaceful, and the crystal music was soothing. For the first time since the crash, Amanda began to relax. That was when she heard the crying. It was a soft, pitiful sound that seemed to come from deeper in the cave system, like a kitten or a small child in distress. Amanda hesitated. Her rational mind told her to stay put and not explore unknown caves in the dark, but the sound was so sad and desperate that she could not ignore it. Amanda picked up her plasma torch and followed the sound through a narrow passage that led to another chamber. This one was smaller and filled with fallen crystal chunks. The crying was definitely coming from here. She carefully moved the crystal pieces aside, following the sound to its source. Under a pile of sharp crystal shards, she found what was making the noise. It was unlike any creature she had ever seen. About the size of a house cat, it had dark scales that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Tiny wings were folded against its back, and large intelligent eyes looked up at her with unmistakable pain and fear. "Oh, you poor little thing," Amanda whispered. "You are hurt, are not you?" The creature made soft chirping sounds as she carefully freed it from the crystal trap. Its left wing appeared to be damaged and there were several small cuts on its scales, but nothing that looked life-threatening. Amanda had always been good with animals. During her childhood on Earth, she had rescued countless stray cats and injured birds. This creature might be alien, but pain was universal. She cleaned its wounds with water from her kit and used strips from her spare clothing to make bandages. The creature submitted to her care without resistance, as if it somehow understood she was trying to help. "There," Amanda said softly. "That should feel better." The creature looked at her with what she could only describe as gratitude. It made gentle purring sounds and rubbed its head against her hand like a cat seeking affection. Amanda smiled. Even millions of miles from Earth, some things never changed. Kindness was still kindness, and animals still recognized it when they saw it. She carried the injured creature back to her campsite and made a soft nest for it using part of her thermal blanket. The creature curled up inside and went to sleep almost immediately. Amanda sat watching it and wondered what she had gotten herself into. She was stranded on an alien world with no way to contact help. Her supplies would not last long. And now, she was caring for an injured alien animal. But somehow she felt less alone. Amanda woke to find the small creature watching her with bright, intelligent eyes. Its wounds looked much better after a night of rest, and it seemed far more alert than before. "Good morning, little one," she said softly. "How are you feeling?" The creature chirped in response and tried to flutter its wings. The injured wing still could not support flight, but it moved much better than yesterday. Amanda was relieved to see the improvement. She shared some of her breakfast rations with the creature, who ate eagerly. It seemed to enjoy the dried fruit especially, making happy purring sounds as it ate. "I should give you a name," Amanda mused. "You are so dark and mysterious, how about Shadow?" The creature tilted its head as if considering the name, then chirped approvingly. Shadow it was. After breakfast, Shadow began moving toward the cave entrance, looking back at Amanda as if wanting her to follow. The creature seemed to have somewhere specific in mind. Amanda packed her supplies and followed Shadow deeper into the cave system. The little creature knew its way perfectly, leading her through passages she never would have found on her own. The tunnels wound through kilometers of crystal formations. Some chambers were so vast that her torch could not reach the ceiling. Others were so narrow they had to crawl through single file. Shadow moved with purpose, occasionally stopping to check that Amanda was still following. The creature, clearly, knew exactly where it was going. After several hours of walking, they reached a massive chamber that took Amanda's breath away. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, supported by crystal pillars the size of buildings. Bioluminescent organisms covered every surface, turning the entire space into a natural cathedral of light. But what really amazed Amanda were the other creatures waiting in the chamber. Two dragons much larger than Shadow, stood in the center of the space. They were magnificent beings, each about the size of a small horse with the same dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Their wings were fully developed and powerful looking, and their eyes held ancient intelligence. Amanda froze, unsure what to do. These creatures were clearly predators, with sharp claws and teeth designed for hunting. But they made no threatening moves toward her. Shadow chirped excitedly and bounded toward the larger dragons. They nuzzled the little creature gently, clearly, relieved to see it safe. Amanda realized these must be Shadow's family. The larger dragons turned their attention to Amanda. She held very still, afraid that any sudden movement might trigger an attack. But instead of aggression, she saw curiosity in their ancient eyes. One of the dragons approached slowly, moving with fluid grace. It stopped just outside her reach and studied her carefully. Amanda could feel its intelligence like a physical presence in her mind. "I helped your baby," Amanda said quietly. "Shadow was hurt, but I think it will be okay now." The dragon tilted, its massive head as if it understood her words. Then, to Amanda's amazement, it lowered its head in what looked like a bow of gratitude. The other dragon approached from the side. This one was slightly smaller but moved with equal grace. It sniffed Amanda carefully, then gently nuzzled her shoulder with its snout. Amanda reached out slowly and touched the dragon's neck. Its scales were warm and surprisingly soft. The dragon purred, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the entire chamber. "You are beautiful," Amanda whispered. "Both of you." She decided to call them Luna and Star, after their luminous scales that seemed to hold starlight within them. Over the next few hours, Amanda learned more about her new companions. The dragons were highly intelligent, possibly more so than humans. They communicated through a combination of sounds, gestures, and what felt like direct mental contact. They showed her their home in detail. The chamber was part of a vast underground city built entirely from living crystal. The dragons had lived here for thousands of years, growing and shaping the crystals to meet their needs. Amanda realized she was witnessing something incredible. These creatures were not just intelligent animals. They were an advanced civilization that had chosen to live in harmony with their environment rather than dominating it. The dragons shared their food with her, offering fruits and vegetables that grew in crystal gardens deeper in the cave system. The food was delicious and more nutritious than her emergency rations. That evening, as Amanda sat beside a crystal pool watching the dragons tend to their young, she heard distant sounds echoing through the caves. Mechanical sounds that did not belong in this natural place. Luna and Star immediately became alert, their scales darkening to almost complete black. Shadow hid behind Amanda, trembling with fear. "What is it?" Amanda asked. The dragons did not need to answer. She could hear the sounds getting closer, boots marching in formation, electronic equipment humming, voices speaking in alien languages. Hunters. Luna showed Amanda images in her mind. Alien creatures with weapons and nets trying to capture dragons for prizes. Many attempts over the years. Some dragons had been hurt. Some had disappeared completely. Amanda understood. The dragons were not hiding from her. They were hiding from others who wanted to capture them. "I will not let them hurt you," Amanda promised. The dragons looked at her with surprise. Luna projected an image into Amanda's mind, showing the alien hunters with their advanced weapons and armor. What could one small human do against such a force? Amanda smiled grimly. "You would be surprised what humans can accomplish when they put their minds to it." She began planning immediately. The hunters would be expecting to face wild animals. They would not be expecting to face an opponent who could think strategically and use the dragon's natural abilities to maximum advantage. Shadow recovered enough to fly short distances. Luna and Star could phase through solid crystal at will, becoming completely invisible to most sensors. And Amanda understood human psychology well enough to predict how the hunters would behave. It was time to turn the tables. The sounds of the hunting party grew closer, echoing through the crystal tunnels. Amanda could hear them setting up equipment and planning their approach. Let them come, she whispered to her dragon companions. We will be ready. Captain Vex led his hunting party through the crystal caves with grim determination. His reputation could not survive another failure. The Galactic Council was already questioning his competence, and his own crew was beginning to whisper behind his back. Motion sensors are picking up movement ahead, reported Lieutenant Zark. Large creatures moving through the main chamber system. Finally, Vex growled. Deploy stun nets in a wide pattern. I want every exit covered. The hunting party spread out through the tunnels, their heavy armor clanking against the crystal walls. They carried enough firepower to stop a charging war beast, but they had learned to be cautious around shadow dragons. In the main chamber, Amanda finished her preparations. She had spent hours studying the cave system with Luna and Star, learning every passage and hidden entrance. The dragon's ability to phase through crystal gave them an enormous advantage, but only if used correctly. Remember the plan, Amanda whispered to her companions. Stay hidden until I give the signal, then show them exactly why humans and dragons make such a good team. Shadow perched on her shoulder, fully recovered from its injuries. The little dragon's eyes blazed with determination. It might be the smallest of the group, but it was also the fastest and most agile. Luna and Star faded into the crystal walls, becoming completely invisible. Amanda could barely sense their presence even when she knew exactly where they were hiding. The first hunter entered the chamber cautiously, his weapon sweeping back and forth. He wore full combat armor and carried sensors that could detect heat, signatures from a kilometer away. But the dragon's natural camouflage made them nearly impossible to track. More hunters filed into the chamber, spreading out in a standard search pattern. Their leader was obviously an experienced soldier, directing his team with military precision. Amanda stepped out from behind a crystal pillar with her hands raised in surrender. Do not shoot, she called out. I am human. I am not armed. The hunting party spun toward her voice, weapons trained on her position. Their leader stepped forward, and Amanda got her first close look at an alien hunter. Captain Vex was exactly what she had expected. A professional predator who viewed every living creature as potential prey. His forearms held different weapons, and his compound eyes missed nothing. Human female, Vex announced. You are in violation of Galactic Hunting Guild territory restrictions. I crashed here 2 days ago, Amanda replied truthfully. My ship is wrecked. I have been trying to survive while waiting for rescue. Have you encountered any shadow dragons in these caves? Amanda pretended to look confused. Shadow dragons. What do they look like? Vex described the creatures while his team continued sweeping the chamber with their sensors. Amanda listened carefully, filing away useful information about their equipment and tactics. I have seen some small flying creatures, Amanda said finally. They seemed harmless enough. One of them was injured, so I helped it. Injured dragon. Vex's eyes lit up with predatory interest. Where is it now? Right here, Amanda said, reaching up to stroke Shadow's neck. The hunting party stared in amazement. Their quarry was sitting calmly on the human's shoulder like a trained pet. Shadow chirped softly and nuzzled Amanda's cheek, showing complete trust. Impossible, breathed Lieutenant Zark. We have been hunting these creatures for weeks. They are supposed to be completely wild and untamable. Amanda shrugged. It was hurt and scared. I helped it, and now it seems to like me. Animals usually respond well to kindness. Captain Vex studied the scene with growing frustration. His entire professional worldview was being challenged by a simple human civilian who had accomplished what his advanced hunting team could not. Hand over the creature, Vex ordered. We have a legal contract to capture shadow dragons for the Galactic Council. I cannot make it go anywhere, Amanda replied reasonably. It seems to make its own decisions about where it wants to be, as if summoned. By her words, Luna and Star materialized from the crystal walls on either side of Amanda. The hunting party spun toward them, weapons ready, but the dragons made no aggressive moves. The two magnificent creatures simply stood beside Amanda like loyal guardians. They showed no fear of the advanced weapons pointed at them. 3 dragons, Vex said in wonder. She has 3 of them with her. They chose to be here, Amanda corrected. I did not capture or tame them. They are free to leave anytime they want. The hunting party formed a circle around Amanda and the dragons, but they hesitated to fire. The creatures were clearly not threatening anyone, and shooting them might damage valuable specimens. Explain how you accomplished this, Vex demanded. What technology did you use? What drugs? What mind control devices? None of those things, Amanda said calmly. I just treated them with respect and kindness. Apparently, that was something they had not experienced before. The implications hit Vex like a physical blow. If word of this got back to the Galactic Council, his entire guild would be seen as incompetent. A single human with no training or equipment had succeeded where an elite hunting team had failed completely. Surrender the creatures immediately, Vex said, raising his primary weapon. That is your final warning. Amanda looked at Luna and Star. What do you think should we go with these hunters? Both dragons shook their heads in very human-like gestures of refusal. Shadow chirped defiantly from Amanda's shoulder. I'm afraid they have made their choice, Amanda told Vex, and I respect their decision. Then you will all be captured together, Vex snarled. He gave the signal to fire stun nets, but Luna and Star simply phased through the energy barriers like they were made of smoke. Shadow took flight, moving too quickly for the net projectors to track. The hunting party found themselves holding empty nets while their targets stood calmly in the exact same positions as before. How did they do that? Demanded Lieutenant Zark. They can phase through solid matter, Amanda explained helpfully. It is one of their natural abilities. I thought you would have figured that out by now, considering how long you have been trying to catch them. Captain Vex realized he was in an impossible situation. His weapons could not affect creatures that could become intangible at will. His nets and cages were useless against beings who could walk through walls. Worse still, the dragons clearly trusted the human completely. Any attempt to harm Amanda would probably provoke them to real violence. For the first time in his career, Vex was faced with prey that he simply could not catch.